A spacecraft entombed in glacier ice on Nisos 9, as if it had crashed there long before humans discovered fire. The cold pierced his insulated coveralls, while another wind screamed across the empty plain. His breath crystallized into mist before his visor briefly clouding his view of the ancient craft. Its sleek frame, once surely majestic, now looked like a frozen relican, enormous popsicle stick with engine pods. Betting pool says you'll trigger doomsday before dinner. Came. Zara's voice through his helmet. Come. His only link to the outpost. And also the only person who cared enough to joke at his expense. Doomsday's delayed, Milo replied, tweaking the thermal lance's power settings. This thing's been dead longer than cities have stood. I'm just here for spare parts. The outpost needs a new thermal regulator. I need a ticket off this frostbitten wasteland. The truth was uglier. The Galactic Transport Authority had abandoned him here 3 months earlier when his hauler's nav system failed catastrophically. They'd seized his ship, revoked his license, and unleashed debt collectors on him like carrion birds. Nisos 9 was the end of the line, a station at the far edge of mapped space, where corporations sent broken equipment, tanned broken people to disappear. Director Harlow says you're breaching 23 corporate salvage protocols. Zara went on. Says if you bring anything back without proper decon, he'll space you himself. Milo rolled his eyes. Tell Harlow his sense of humor is out here too, frozen solid. A hiss cut through the wind as the thermal lance finally punctured the hull. The ice sublimated instantly, releasing a plume of air that hadn't touched daylight in ages. It whirled around Milo's helmet as he grabbed his diagnostic scanner and swept it across the surface. The results puzzled him. This alloy didn't register, and his database held every known material used in commercial spacecraft construction. Zara. I'm getting strange readings, he said. This isn't a standard hull. Static crackled. Zara. Outpost actual. Do you copy? No answer. The shriek of wind. Great, he muttered. Storm's messing with comms. He glanced skyward. Thick clouds rolled in fast, swelling with more meteorological punishment. His rover sat just 50 meters away but in a whiteout that could become whoosher kilometers. He had a choice to make. Retreat to safety or press on while he could. The ship pulled at him not literally, but with the same drive that had once made him one of the best mechanics in the sector. This wasn't just a salvage op anymore. This was something new, something important. He carefully widened the breach with the lance, the ice dissolving to reveal what might be an access panel. It was marked with symbols unlike anything he'd ever seen, triangular glyphs with circular segments, arranged in eye-wrenching formations. Staring too long made his vision blur. The scanner pinged gently. Minimal power detected, but still present. After gods knew how many centuries encased in ice, the ship's systems still lived. Impossible, he whispered, the word frosting on his visor. The logical move was to return, report, and let someone with authority handle it. The GTA would send experts. In 8 months, by then, another brutal winter would bury it again. But Milo had never been a poster boy for logic. That's how he'd ended up on Nisos 9. He plugged his diagnostic tool into what seemed like an interface port. Universal adapters worth their weight in platinum did the job. Ship wasn't lifeless, just dormant. Core power held at 0.07%, high enough to preserve memory, but nothing else. Curiosity flaring, hooked in a portable power cell, carefully. Matching what he guessed was baseline voltage, the vessel shivered not mechanically, but like something waking. Under his glove, the access panel lit up. The alien symbols glowed pale blue, pulsing gently. Well, Milo muttered. That's different. He checked his wrist display. Outside temperature, -63. Wind speed, 89 kilometers per hour, gusting to 120. Visibility collapsing. Could flee for the rover or stay. But if he stayed, he'd have shelter. Assuming no ancient defense grid vaporized him, it wasn't really a choice. The panel had a spiral mark at its center. Trusting instincts forged by decades of cobbling mismatched. Systems together, Milo pressed his palm to it. The panel slid away with a pneumatic sigh. A tunnel opened beyond, shadowed and narrow. Warm air drifted out, tinged with ozona. Something else. Something living. He switched on his helmet lamp and ducked inside. The corridor was cramped clearly. Not made for human use, he hunched, his gear scraping the walls. The same triangular glyphs lined the passage, now etched into the metal rather than lit. 20 meters in, the space widened. Its beam cut into the black, revealing consoles and seats. Built for beings shaped nothing like him. The ceiling arched away into darkness. "Hello?" He called and immediately felt ridiculous. No one had walked these halls for centuries. Maybe longer. A soft click answered him, then a wordless hum. Panels around the chamber lit up, casting the space in that same tranquil blue glow. The ship no. Something inside was waking. "Okay, not dead?" he muttered. "Definitely not dead," Milo added under his breath, tightening his grip on the thermal lance. It wasn't meant as a weapon, but it could cut metal flesh wouldn't hold up. The hum gathered intensity, focused around a cylindrical column in the center of the room. It resembled an old stasis pod, straight out of vintage sci-fi. A thick coat of ice fogged a Tice frozen on the inside. Milo stepped closer, cautiously, brushing the frost away with a gloved hand. Movement. Behind the translucent shell, something shifted, something alive. He recoiled fast, nearly tripping over a nearby alien control panel. Nope, absolutely not. I draw the line at waking up ancient alien monsters. The pod groaned, like glass under pressure. A crack split its surface, then another, webbing outwards like frozen lightning. The hum grew shrill, vibrating through Milo's jaw, his bones. Curiosity lost its fight with survival instinct. He turned and ran. He slammed his helmet into the low ceiling and saw stars explode behind his eyelids. Pain spiked through his skull. Behind him, glass shattered. 5 steps from the exit, something seized his ankle. He hit the floor hard. The air punched from his chest as he was dragged back toward the open pod. Panic surged. Milo activated the thermal lance, jabbing it behind him. A piercing screech rang out. The grip on his leg vanished. Gasping, he scrambled upright and looked back, and froze. It wasn't a monster, not the slimy, tentacled, bone-crunching kind he'd imagined. It was humanoid, crouched beside the ruined pod, gripping an injured limb. And slender. Skin like shifting light iridescent, sliding through colors as it moved. Its face was almost human, but not quite. Features misaligned, subtly wrong, eyes too wide and far apart. The nose barely more than ridged slits. A small, round mouth like a speaker diaphragm. Its gaze met Milo's. The large eyes weren't really eyes, but smooth, multifaceted surfaces, more insect than mammal. It made a sound clicks, whistles, tonal variations. Milo raised the lance defensively. "Stay back. I don't want to hurt you, but I will if I have to." Ah! The being tilted its head, then slowly lifted both hands, palms forward clear, universal surrender. It spoke again, but this time it wasn't from its mouth. Ship speakers, mechanical and precise. Apologies. Disorientation. Long sleep you are. Repair technician. Milo blinked, momentarily thrown. Yeah. Mechanical engineer, heavy machinery focus. The alien's color shifted, softening to a pale, serene blue. Fortuitous. Systems compromised. Multiple core functions failing. Assistance required. You want me to ... fix your ship? Milo asked, baffled. Not ship, the translator corrected. Evacuation vessel. Final survivor of Garlac civilization. Milo lowered the lance slightly. You've been in stasis for how long? The alien tapped a device on its forearm. 200,000 years? Milo's voice broke. That's ... no. Nothing survives that long, not even in stasis. Garlac technology superior, the alien replied, not infallible. They motioned around the chamber. Severe damage during emergency descent. Auto repair systems activated. Stasis initiated to preserve vital functions. Rescue expected within standard cycle. Rescue never arrived. There was something in that last line, something deeper than language. Silence so heavy it spanned species. Milo felt a jolt of sympathy. "What happened to your people?" he asked, curiosity once more overtaking caution. Unknown. Final transmitted data indicated stellar instability. Evacuation order issued, many pods launched. Final message from Central Authority, confirmed system-wide detonation. Primary star collapsed. Catastrophic event. Excel's skin darkened, swirling, with shadowed hues that radiated loss. "I am Nexel, final scientific archivist of the Galax Consortium. And you?" "It's Milo," he said. "Milo Gannon. Human, Earth, Dashborn. Though it's been years." He hesitated, then offered a hand. Halfway through, he realized that might be meaningless, or even insulting. But Nexel surprised him, lifting their own hand and matching the gesture, though with an extra finger or two. "Your help is valued, Technician Milo." "Fine. And I didn't say I was helping yet." Even as he said it, Milo knew he would. The engineer in him couldn't resist the puzzle, and the man in him couldn't walk away from what might be the only living memory of an extinct species. A tremor rolled through the pod. The ice cracked around them like thunder. Red symbols blinked across the alien consoles. "What now?" asked, gripping a support beam. "Thermal imbalance triggered by system reactivation, structural integrity of ice compromised, internal pressure redistribution unstable. In human terms, ship is descending. Soon will collapse under ice." "Mass," Milo swore, using a few words that would have made his mother blush. "How long?" "Estimated duration, 38 of your minutes. That's distressingly specific. Correction, 37 minutes, 44 seconds. Great." Milo clipped his lance to his belt and pulled out his toolkit. The damage. Nexel guided him deeper into the vessel. They entered a chamber far different from the sleek command center. This was industrial, full of towering machinery. The place looked like someone had tried to combine a fusion reactor with an art exhibit. Ice had spread through microfractures in the walls, creating jagged crystal webs. "Primary engine, non-functional," Nexel said, pointing to a large, humming structure. "Secondary, beyond repair. Emergency thrusters viable, but activation blocked by safety protocols." "Of course they are," Milo muttered. "Safety parameters prohibit thrust while docked or near inhabited structures." "And the ship thinks the ice is a docking clamp." "Correct." Milo stared at the tangle of alien hardware, his mind already dividing it into problems, components, systems. "So we need to fool the ship. Make it believe it's not docked, then trigger the emergency thrusters before we get pancaked." "Accurate." "Assessment. Can't you bypass the failsafe?" "It's your tech." "Negative. Archivists hold knowledge clearance, not command." "Override requires command insignia. Let me guess that went down with the bridge crew, correct?" "All lost during ejection." Milo rubbed his temples. Low throb was building behind his eyes. "Okay," he sighed. "Time to think." "Beyond protocol. If we can't override the safeties legitimately, we'll have to fool them," Milo muttered. He studied the system more closely. Following the web of conduits and data relays was alien, yes, but engineering principles. Tended to echo each other across species. Everything needed energy, input, and a trigger. If he could isolate those components, he could manipulate them. These sensor nodes. He pointed at a cluster of crystal-like bulbs embedded in the bulkhead. "They're reading the ice, right?" "Correct. Pressure distribution monitors." "So, if they stop detecting pressure, the system has to verify the condition before activating emergency thrust." "Affirmative." "Failsafe protocol requires redundancy." Milo grinned. "Which would be external visual confirmation." "Through cameras. Currently buried under 20 meters of glacial ice. Offline." "Right. So when the cameras fail, too, what's left?" "Manual verification. Authorized personnel only, which would be you if you had command authority." "Correct, Milo?" Paced the compartment. Mind racing. "But you don't need real command clearance. You just need to trick the system into thinking you've got it." He dug through his toolkit, pulling out his multi-scanner. The device could spoof ID signals. Useful when working on proprietary tech that didn't want third-party repairs. This command authority, was it encoded in something physical or digital? Quantum encrypted data signature? Embedded in neural interfaces of command staff? Of course it was, Milo grumbled. Never easy. How does the ship validate the signature? Reception nodes integrated into core systems. Great. Show me one. Nexel guided him to a panel near the main console. Set into the metallic surface was a small hexagonal receiver. Tiny filaments spiraling inward like alien circuitry. Milo crouched beside it and plugged in the scanner. I'm about to try something extremely inadvisable. That is, worrying. Welcome to how humans handle emergencies. Milo configured the scanner to emit randomized encryption. Pulses across a rotating band of frequencies. Brute force. Clumsy. Dangerous. But they didn't have luxury on their side. If this works, Milo said,
else.
Get ready to punch in that emergency thruster sequence the second the safeties drop. And if it fails, then we've got maybe 30 seconds of system confusion before countermeasures kick in. What countermeasures? Security routines. What do they do, exactly? Neutralization via focused molecular deconstruction. So, disintegration. Essentially, yes. Perfect. Let's not get that far. Milo inhaled, then engaged the scanner. Instantly, the ship blared to life with alert tones. Warning lights bathed the chamber in crimson.
X.
Nexel's skin flashed in jagged bands of black and orange. Security protocols activated, Nexel reported. Unnecessarily, yeah, I noticed. Milo tweaked the scanner output, increasing its modulation speed. Come on, you stubborn alien box. Talk to me. The ship groaned. Ice shifted violently above them. Something split with a crack like a distant rifle shot. Pressure escalation is exceeding projections, Nexel warned. Time remaining, 22 minutes. Not helping, Milo snapped, hands flying. Over the scanner interface, a new tone sliced through the alarms sharper, less hostile. It sounded ... confused. The red lights dimmed, softening to amber. Unusual response, Milo muttered, leaning into the scanner, zeroing in on the frequency range that triggered the change. Just a bit more ... The amber lights blinked once, twice, then turned green. A gentle chime echoed through the room. Command. Authority temporarily validated, announced the system. Emergency protocols unlocked. Identity confirmation required. Nexel stepped forward without pause. Scientific Archivist, Nexel ID, Alpha 93, Delta. Initiate emergency override stellar. Collapse contingency. The silence stretched, tightening Milo's nerves. Identity insufficient for full command access. The ship finally responded. Emergency status verified. Limited emergency controls enabled. Awaiting instructions. Milo exhaled, hard he. Hadn't realized he was holding his breath. Tell it to fire the thrusters. Initiate emergency extraction protocol, Nexel commanded. Engage tertiary propulsion at lowest operational level. Acknowledged. Tertiary thrusters engaging. Warm-up sequence initiated. 18 minutes prep time, 18 minutes. Jolted violently, tilting at a disorienting angle. Milo slid across the floor, slamming into a wall with a grunt. Ice integrity deteriorating faster than initial projection, Nexel confirmed. Updating collapse timeline 15 minutes to structural failure. So we're going to be crushed before the thrusters are ready. Milo resisted the rising panic. Can we accelerate the warm-up? Not possible. Limiters hard-coded. Override requires full authority access. Milo swore. Gotta be something. Can we jettison a section to reduce mass and redistribute load? Would eliminate life support functions? Yeah, ... Let's not. The ship tilted harder. Debris fell. Machinery broke free and crashed to the floor. A support beam above them groaned. Wait, Milo said suddenly. You mentioned tertiary thrusters. What about primary and secondary? You said they were inoperable. But are the power cells intact? Clarify request. We don't need to restore full function. Just harvest the power units. Use them to charge the tertiary system, jumpstart it. Nexel's skin shifted into cool blues and pale greens. Thinking. Theoretical viability confirmed. Risk of energy spike high. It's worse than being squashed. Under 500 tons of alien glacier? Milo checked his wrist. We've got 13 minutes. Valid risk trade-off. Begin extraction. They launched into motion. Nexel directed with practiced precision, while Milo's more agile hands detached cables and components from the wrecked drives. Around them, the ship groaned under the strain. Twice everything shook as partial collapses rocked the hull, sending tremors through the deck. Milo finally dragged the primary cella at the size of his forearm. But with the density of a full-grown child toward the tertiary control node, Nexel had already exposed the interface. If calculations correct, they said, power burst will override warm-up delay. However, control systems may suffer damage after 27 seconds of burn. We don't need 27 seconds, Milo replied, snapping together adapters from his toolkit. We just need to break the ice literally. He connected the last power lead. A deep vibration rumbled through the ship as energy surged. Overhead, the bulkheads howled. Steel warped and screeched as cracks spidered through the walls. Frigid vapor hissed in from above as hairline fractures expanded. Warning. Structural stability at critical, the system announced in an eerily calm voice. Catastrophic collapse imminent. Never, Milo muttered, locking in the final adapter. Do it now. Nexel activated the emergency ignition. For one horrifying instant, nothing happened. Then the power cell lit up white-hot, and the ship screamed. There was no better word for it. A shriek of mechanical agony tore through the vessel as its systems were wrenched into overdrive, pushed far beyond their intended capacity. The deck vibrated violently. Heat surged through the compartment as cooling systems buckled, unable to offset the sudden surge. Brace for launch. Nexel yelled. Milo barely managed to grab a handhold. Before gravity lost all meaning, it was like being inside a blender, violent, disorienting, thunderously loud. His stomach twisted as G-forces pulled in every direction. Outside, the ice detonated. Around them, massive chunks shattered away from the hull, each collision thudding through the vessel like war drums above them. Something cracked, sharp and metallic, like a rifle shot. Then suddenly the resistance gave way. The ship tore free of the glacier's grip, erupting into open air, trailing clouds of ice vapor and steam. For one breathtaking moment, they were airborne, battered, damaged, but flying. The moment ended as the overtaxed thrusters gave up with a thunderous bang. The explosion rocked the vessel, throwing it into a spin. Milo lost his grip and slammed into Nexel, both of them colliding with a bank of machinery. Emergency lights flared. Alarms fused into one long, painful wail. This vessel is currently experiencing extreme failure, Nexel reported, their translator fighting to keep up. You think? Milo groaned, trying to figure out which way was up. Stabilize us. Negative. Controls unresponsive. Estimating impact coordinates. The spin slowed slightly as air resistance began fighting their momentum. Through a cracked viewport, Milo glimpsed the landscape far below, jagged ridges, endless white tundra, bathed in dying sunlight. Estimated ground contact in 90 seconds. Nexiel announced. Impact survivability. Low. Milo's mind raced. Emergency crash systems already used. 200 millennia ago? Of course they are, he muttered, frantically scanning the compartment. His eyes landed on his toolkit, still intact by some miracle. Wait, maybe. ... He scrambled across the lurching deck, nearly sliding into an open hatch, and grabbed it. Inside was his prized tool, a compact gravitational stabilizer. Designed for precise field tuning in unstable grav environments, nowhere near enough for this. But principles are principles. Can you divert remaining power to inertial dampeners? He called, already tuning the stabilizer settings. Affirmative. But effect will be minor given current reserves. Do it. Every second counts. While Nexel rerouted the last of the ship's dwindling energy, Milo attached the stabilizer to a small auxiliary conduit near the wall. The effect was almost imperceptible at first. The tumbling eased slightly. Then, as the ship's own dampeners aligned with the stabilizer's field, their descent shifted from chaotic spin to something more like a glide, still falling but falling with intent. Impressive adaptation. Nexel noted, their skin flickering in a pattern Milo guessed meant surprised approval. Hold the applause, Milo said, staring at the landscape rushing toward them. This ride's not over. Impact in 20 seconds. So prepare for emergency landing. They secured themselves quickly, Milo wedging into a brace between two reinforced struts. Nexel curling their elongated limbs around a pillar with prehensile precision. If this is it, Milo said abruptly, just want you to know, meeting, you've been one hell of a thing. Last archivist of the Galax Consortium. The feeling is mutual, Technician Milo of Earth, Nexel replied, skin now glowing warm golds and deep reds. Should we survive? I would like to study more of human improvisational mechanics. Impact in 3.2. 1. And then the world shattered. Metal screamed as the ship tore across the ground. Consoles erupted in sparks. Gravity turned inside out. The floor slammed into Milo with brutal force, then dropped away as they bounced, skidded, tore through ice, and light vanished. Pain exploded. His helmet cracked as debris smacked his head. Then silence. Just the groan of strained metal, the hiss of vents, the soft ticking of something cooling. Milo blinked, performed a shaky mental checklist. Conscious breathing, sore. Possibly fractured rib, helmet intact mostly. The faceplate was cracked. Not good on a planet like Nisos 9. Next hill, he called, voice hoarse. You alive? Something shifted in a pile of wreckage. Nexil emerged, skin now dulled to gray. One arm hung limp and askew. Still functional, they said, translator glitching between words. Healing subroutines engaged. What's the ship's status? Unrecoverable. Systems beyond repair. Milo groaned and pushed to his feet, clutching his side. So, we survive a 200,000-year crash just to die in a second one? Not necessarily. Nexel gestured weakly. Emergency beacon activated during launch. Transmission sent before core failure. Milo laughed. Once then gasped as pain lit his side. Right. And who exactly is going to respond to a Galax SOS 200 millennia after the Galax went extinct? Signal includes automatic translation and formatting to match any compatible tech in range. Your Galactic Transport Authority should detect it. GTA won't come for me, Milo said bitterly. I'm a grounded hauler with debts and a revoked license. Signal flagged as first contact. According to your interstellar code, such messages require immediate response. First contact? Milo blinked. But humans have met dozens. Of alien races, none from the Galax Consortium. Our civilization predates all known starfaring species. The data I carry contains knowledge lost for eons. Milo's eyes widened. You're not just a survivor, he said. You're a walking treasure vault. Crude analogy, but correct. The value of this archive to current civilizations is immeasurable. For the first time since arriving on this frozen hellhole, Milo felt hope real, tangible hope. If Nexel was right, the GTA wouldn't care about his past. Not after this. How long before someone picks up the signal? Milo glanced at his suit's display. My portable life support gives me maybe 8 hours. 9 if I stay still and breathe shallow. The ship's environmental systems are compromised, Nexel said. Atmospheric containment at 37% and dropping. Temperature control, non-functional. So we're racing air depletion versus freezing to death, Milo sighed. Just another Tuesday for Milo Gannon, professional galactic screw. This is ... a common scenario for you, figure of speech. Let's see what's worth salvaging. They began combing through the wreck. The ship had split into 3 sections. The center, Holding the bridge and life support was damaged, but stable. The engine block was total wreckage. The forward section shorn clean in the crashes sat some 50 meters away across fractured ice. Milo scavenged what he could. Backup lights, insulation fabric, and most valuable, a small atmospheric processor that could stretch their oxygen. Nexel extracted several data cores from an intact storage locker, along with a handful of personal artifacts. If rescue does not arrive, they said softly, inspecting a crystalline object that glowed with pulsing light, the archive must survive. It holds the last memory of my species. Milo paused, watching them. We'll make it, Nexel. Both of us. Your faith is touching, if lacking in statistical foundation. Statistics don't factor in human stubbornness, Milo said, tapping his cracked visor. I once survived 3 days in a depressurized cargo bay with a patched suit and half a recycler. This is 5-star living by comparison. They established a makeshift camp inside the central wreckage. Milo sealed gaps with repair foam and rigged emergency barriers across ruptured bulkheads. The atmospheric processor hummed, filtering and recycling what little breathable air remained. Outside, the dim twilight of Nisos 9 had deepened into true night. The stars above were harsh and remote, cold fires and a black sky. I've been meaning to ask, Milo said as they sat near the processor, both wrapped in salvaged insulation. How's your translator working this well after 200,000 years? How do you even speak my language? Ship maintained passive monitoring during stasis. External signals radio, data bursts were recorded and processed. The translator adapted gradually over time, and when I plugged in my scanner, interface detected active linguistic source. Translator completed adjustments using input from your diagnostic system. Damn, Milo muttered. No wonder your people were peace-focused. Tech like that could talk a warship into a truce. Communication was our most prized science. Understanding breeds coexistence. Didn't stop your star from blowing up, Milo said before thinking. Nexel's skin darkened to deep charcoal. Some disasters defy prevention. Silence followed, long and contemplative. Milo checked his wrist display. They'd been in the shelter almost 2 hours. The cold crept in more with each passing minute, and the ship's power was draining faster than forecast. Remaining energy at 7%, ship intoned, voice broken and distorted. Primary systems failing. Emergency conservation. Engaged. Nexel stood suddenly. We must transfer the archives before power loss. Assist me. They moved to the control center, what was left of it, a crystalline core, faintly glowing, sat embedded in a fractured console. Nexel manipulated alien controls with one functioning arm. This contains the full cultural, scientific, and historical data of the Galax Consortium. Too large for portable retention. Compression and prioritization required. Need from me? Milo asked. Connect your diagnostic device. The interface will sync for selective upload. Milo hesitated. My scanner isn't built for storage. It can't hold more than basic files. Transmit core data directly to your people. That was a fallback plan, the insurance policy in case they didn't make it. Milo understood what this meant to Nexel. This wasn't just a backup. It was a legacy. It's a final breath of an entire civilization. He connected his diagnostic scanner to the alien console. The process began slowly, draining more from the dying ship with every passing second. Outside, the storm returned with a vengeance. Screaming through the fractured hull and threading icy fingers into their shelter, power reserves at 4%. The ship's damaged voice warned. Critical failure approaching. Milo glanced at his suit's readout. His life support was still holding at 63% better than he'd expected, but nowhere near enough to survive until rescue. Nexel, by contrast, had no such protection. They were completely reliant on the ship, which was bleeding. Out. Transfer at 26%, Nexel reported, voice barely audible. Their skin had paled to an icy blue, and their motions were slowing with every task. Not enough power, they added. At this rate, we won't complete the upload. Blow. Scanned their surroundings in desperation. Nothing left to burn, nothing left to patch. nothing left to give. Then his eyes landed on his helmet, still plugged into the ship, its integrated power cell humming quietly. An idea formed. Reckless, stupid, potentially fatal. Nexil, can we divert my suit's power to the ship systems? Possible, they answered slowly, but we'll compromise your life support. How much time would it give us? Approximately 1 hour of extended ship function, but your own survival window would decrease sharply. Do it, Milo said. Already. Pulling off his helmet, breath catching in the frigid air. Wait, one of us has to make it. In this story, your story needs to survive. Unacceptable, Nexil said. Both lives must be preserved. Then let's move fast. He connected his helmet's power cell to the emergency backup port. Watching the power indicators spike slightly, with Nexil at the console, Milo turned his attention to the atmospheric processor, fine-tuning its settings to squeeze out every drop of breathable air. Together, they boosted its efficiency by 20%. Not enough for comfort, but enough to buy time. The data stream resumed at a steady pace. Outside, the wind became a gale. Ice stung the hull in angry flurries. Won't your outpost come? Looking for you? Nexil asked during a brief lull. Milo snorted. Director Harlow? He's probably having a drink right now, thrilled to have me out of his jurisdiction. I'm a walking HR headache. And your friend, Zara? She might care. But without Harlow's permission, she can't launch a search, especially not in these storms. He checked his chronometer. 5 hours since impact. They were still over 100 kilometers from the outpost. No one even knew where to begin looking. A fresh gust slammed into the wreckage, rattling loose hull panels. Alarms wailed. Structural breach in compartment 3, the ship announced. Perfect, Milo muttered, racing toward the warning. That section had been sealed, but now a jagged split had formed between twisted plates. Frigid air blasted through, bringing with it shards of ice that stung his exposed face. The emergency seal was peeling back under the wind's assault. With frozen, trembling fingers, Milo applied the last of his patch compound, pressing the barrier back into place. Temporary at best. But maybe it would hold. Maybe when he returned, Nexil was slumped against the console. Their skin was nearly translucent. Nexil? Milo shouted, dropping to his knees beside them. Vitals declining, the alien whispered, entering low function. State to conserve energy. No, don't shut down. No, we're not done. Transfer at 43%. Core history intact. Scientific archive may be lost. There's got to be another option, Milo said, panicked. Some backup. Nexil didn't respond immediately. Then, with visible strain, they reached into their clothing and retrieved a small silver tube. Personal emergency measure, they said. Boosts biological function, but ... damages cells, accelerates decay. You'll lose years, maybe decades of life. My time means little if the past is forgotten. Before Milo could argue, Nexil pressed the device to their neck. It hissed. Almost instantly, their bodies surged with color. Lightning-like pulses raced across their skin. They returned to the console, hands flying. The transfer rate spiked then. Doubled dash, tripled. Double quotes transfer at 67%, Nexil said, voice now laced with an eerie undertone. Estimated completion, 22 minutes. Milo checked his own systems. Life support at 38%. His helmet was still. Feeding power into the ship, each breath now came harder, colder. Persistent dizziness clouded Milo's thoughts. Just hold on, he muttered, uncertain if he meant Nexil himself or both. Help is coming. But as minutes bled into hours with no rescue in sight, even Milo's stubborn optimism began to falter. Outside, the storm had become a full-force blizzard. Visibility was 0. Even if the GTA had received their beacon, any rescue ship would be flying blind in these conditions. Inside, the ship's power dropped to 2%. The lighting dimmed to a weak amber glow, throwing long shadows across the control center. The atmospheric processor sputtered, barely cycling. Breath fogged the air, then froze. "Transfer at 91%, Nexel whispered. Their voice trembled, weak. "Power critical, rerouting final reserves to data systems." The environmental controls failed entirely. Frost crept across every surface, walls, consoles, Milo's beard and eyebrows. His gloves were stiff with ice. Every breath stabbed his lungs with frozen needles. "We're not going to make it, are we?" Milo asked softly, no longer pretending. Nexel's skin pulsed with faint, unreadable patterns. "Odds unfavorable, but data will survive. Your diagnostic tool will transmit when located." "Not exactly comforting," Milo rasped. "Legacy is comfort. You ensured the final record of an entire civilization. That action has meaning, even if we don't survive." Milo wanted to argue that their lives mattered more than bytes and archives, but he understood. For Nexel, preserving the past was purpose. "Transfer at 98%, Nexel reported. "Final core systems uploading." The ship groaned, a long metallic exhale, as multiple systems cascaded into failure. Emergency lighting flickered and died, plunging the wreck into darkness. Only Nexel's dim bioluminescence remained on the faint throb of the data core. "Power remaining, 1%, the ship whispered, voice breaking apart. "Emergency shutdown imminent." In the dark, Milo reached out and found Nexel's hand, a purely human act of defiance against the void. To his surprise, the alien returned the gesture. Too many fingers wrapped tightly around his own. "It has been an honor, Technician Milo." "Likewise, Archivist Nexel." The last lights died. The processors sighed to a halt. Only their shallow breaths and the distant moan of the blizzard remained. "Transfer complete," Nexile breathed. The translator crackled. "Archives. Preserved." Milo closed his eyes. He was too cold, too numb to resist anymore. But at least he hadn't died alone, drifting in some forgotten freighter bay. At least he mattered. Darkness swam behind his eyes. The cold wrapped around him like sleep. Nexel's hands slackened in his. Their glow faded, and then, through the silence, came a sound. Dull, rhythmic, impact vibrations. Growing louder. Voices' flashlights pierced the gloom. "Milo." "That voice, dash Zara." Double quotes Milo. "Can you hear me?" He tried to respond, but his lips barely moved. The effort sent him spinning back into unconsciousness. Light flared. Metal screeched as the shelter was forced open. Warmth burst over him, mask sealed. Over his mouth, oxygen rushed in. Got him. His vitals critical but present. There's another non-human signature. Priority evac on both. Time fragmented. Engines roared. Stretchers bumped. Voices barked orders. Cold was replaced by warmth, then the clean antiseptic hum of the outpost medical bay. When Milo finally opened his eyes, Zara's face hovered over him. "About time, sleepyhead," she said, relief breaking. Through her usual composure, "You've been out for 36 hours, Nexel." His throat burned with the memory of super-cooled air. They're alive. Barely. Our medics don't understand half their biology. But GTA xenobiologists are on the way. He tried to sit up. Zara gently pushed him down. "Not happening. Hypothermia. Frostbite, oxygen deprivation. You're lucky to be alive." "How did you find us?" Zara smiled. "Your alien friend's distress beacon punched through the storm like it owned the sky. Half the comm stations in this sector picked it up. When you went dark, I told Harlow we needed a search party. You convinced him?" "Told him I'd report him to GTA Central for negligence. Might have mentioned my cousin works in compliance." Milo laughed, which hurt. "Remind me not to cross you. Too late for that." Her smile softened. "Milo, you have no idea what you stumbled onto. GTA's flipping out. Science divisions, military, all inbound. That data core, it's rewriting galactic history." Milo blinked. "Does this mean my license suspension is lifted?" "Lifted, cleared, and burned. The director of GTA Ops signed your commendation personally. They're calling it the find of the millennium. Settle for a shower, one step at a time. She touched his shoulder gently. Rest. Before she left, Zara placed something in his hand, a small crystalline object. Nexel's keepsake. It pulses, he said, watching the shifting light. No idea what it is, but they said it's yours. When she was gone, Milo cradled the crystal. It warmed to his touch. The light patterns focused. Then, to his astonishment, it began to project an image. Nexel's voice echoed in his mind. Technician Milo, should you be hearing this, it means we both survived. If not, then you did. Either way, this archive is yours to protect. A holographic image shimmered into existence above Milo's hand. Nexel. Translucent, but recognizable, their form composed of soft, glowing lines. Technician Milo, the projection began in Nexel's distinctive cadence. If you are viewing this, we have both survived our encounter with mortality. The crystal in his hand pulsed gently as Nexel continued. This object is a Garlac remembrance token. It's traditionally bestowed upon those who preserve that which would otherwise be lost. And the archives you helped save are the scientific advancements of a civilization that spans 7,000 years. Knowledge. That may one day advance your species' understanding by centuries. But more importantly, you preserved our stories, our failures, our triumphs, our art, our identity. Thanks to you, our existence now continues through memory. The hologram shimmered, and the image shifted. Scenes played out in the air between Milo and the world, a planet of crystal spires, piercing iridescent skies, oceans that shimmered with bioluminescent life, beings like Nexel gathered in elegant rings beneath alien constellations. The Garlacs believe that to be remembered is to exist eternally. Nexel's voice continued over the scenes. You have given my people eternity, Technician Milo. The hologram returned to Nexel's image once more. Their gaze was steady, warm, and somehow full of sorrow and gratitude. For this, you are family. Family to the last of the Guarlas. May your path lead to warm suns and gentle winds. The projection faded. The glow of the crystal dimmed back to a soft pulse, steady and calm. Milo closed his fingers around it. Holding the warmth, holding the weight of what it meant, he swallowed against the sudden tightness in his throat. Outside his window, the storms of Nisco's 9 raged on, ever present. Icy winds hurling frozen dust across the landscape, caught in the floodlights of the outpost. The cold was unrelenting, the night unforgiving. But for once, Milo didn't mind the view. Sometimes it took being frozen to appreciate the warmth that followed. Sometimes it took meeting the last survivor of a forgotten people to remember what truly mattered. And sometimes being stranded in the middle of nowhere was exactly where you needed to be.